Hari Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Jyotirmayananda Society, a journey to self realization. Please subscribe for the mystical meanings of the scriptures and daily satsang. We are currently studying the book Yoga of Perfection, which is summary of the Bhagavad Gita, commentaries by Swami Jyotirmayananda Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. So, today we will be covering the summary of chapter 13 and onwards. Chapter 13 is called Kshetragya Vibhag Yoga, meaning distinction between the field and the knower of the field. Lord Krishna continues, the body is the field while spirit is the knower of the field. The same Lord is seated in all bodies. He is the knower of all hearts. Knowledge is that which differentiates field from the knower of the field or spirit. So, what is the field? The great elements, intellect, egoism, and the non manifest prakriti, the senses, and the objects of the senses are in the realm of the field, also known as kshetra. Desire, hatred, pleasure, pain, intelligence, fortitude, and other qualities belong to the field. What is knowledge? The knowledge that differentiates the spirit from the field is characterized by the development of many qualities which are the marks of unfolding knowledge. These qualities are humility, unpretentiousness, non-violence, forgiving, straightforwardness, service of the guru or teacher, purity, steadfastness, self control, dispassion towards the sense enjoyments, absence of egoism, the vision of the evil in birth, old age, disease, and death, non attachment, absence of identification with the body and its relations, constant steadiness of the mind in pleasure and pain, unswerving devotion to God, love for seclusion, and distaste for worldly company, steadiness in self knowledge. These are called knowledge. And all that is opposed to these, such as absence of humility, pretentiousness, violence, a non forgiving nature, and the likes, are the marks of ignorance. They flourish out of lack of knowledge. So, Lord Krishna says, the qualities we have discussed, there are 20 in total. He says, if you can follow these, you are the knower of the field, Kshetragya, and that is real knowledge. Everything else is unreal or untrue knowledge. So, what is the knowledge? The goal of knowledge is the realization of the beginningless Supreme Brahman. He is neither being nor non being. He has his hands and feet everywhere. He has his mouths and ears everywhere. Yet he is untouched by all of this. He is within and without, supremely subtle. He is the light of all lights. The knowledge, knowable, and the goal of all knowledge are seated in every heart. The self is within. Matter and spirit are two modes of the Supreme Being. Both are beginningless. Prakriti or matter sustains the world of relativity in producing cause and effect. Purusha or spirit sustains all experiences of pleasure and pain. The spirit seated in Prakriti becomes the enjoyer of the world, moving in evil and good wombs. But the true nature of the spirit is ever untouched, the supporter, spectator, and the great Lord. The spirit reflecting in the mind stuff assumes the role of individual soul. The spheres of this limited soul are illumined by the true spirit. This spirit is beheld in meditation by the practice of Raja Yoga. Some behold this spirit by the practice of Jnana Yoga, Others behold this by the practice of karma yoga. These yogas are different manifestations of the one integral yoga. We have recently covered a full book of Swami Jyotirmayananda called Integral Yoga. So, if you are listening to this for the first time, you may want to um, go to that playlist where we have that whole book and many other positive books and scriptures that are very profoundly explained, that help us on this journey towards self realization and also help us to live in this world in a much more holistic, happier way. There are others who practice yoga on hearing from others. They too go beyond death by the force of their faith. This is what Lord Krishna says. So imagine just even listening is very helpful. A sage who has differentiated spirit from matter sees the same Lord everywhere. He sees that self is devoid of all action which are being performed by Prakriti alone. He sees the world rooted in one. Just as all pervasive ether is not tainted, even so rooted in the self, he is not tainted by various works. Just as the sun illumines the world without being tainted by the latter, even so the self illumines all the fields. This differentiation of spirit and matter is to be acquired by the intuitive vision alone, born of the highest samadhi. One who is endowed with this vision is freed from the prakriti of the three gunas and is liberated. Thus ends the 13th discourse entitled Kshetra Kshetragya Vibhaga Yoga, the yoga of the distinction between the field and the knower of the field. Moving on to chapter 14, also known as Guna Traya Vibhag Yoga, meaning division of the three gunas. The Lord describes the three gunas. Sattva is characterized by purity, luminosity, and freedom from pain. When sattva manifests, there is experience of joy. Though the joy arises from the self, yet due to ignorance, one attaches oneself to the objects of pleasure. He thinks the joy is coming from outside, from the objects, but in reality, it is the inner consciousness. That's where the real joy resides. Thus, sattva binds a person through the experience of joy and that of knowledge. Rajas is the active principle of nature. It creates insatiable thirst and passion. It binds a person by creating attachment to action. Prakriti or nature is the source of all beings. God is the Father who manifests this world process through Prakriti. Prakriti consists of the three gunas of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Tamas is darkness or inertia. It deludes all beings and it binds by heedlessness, indolence, and sleep. Thus, sattva gives rise to joy, rajas to activities, and tamas, being veiled knowledge, creates attachments to heedlessness and inertia. When one predominates the other, one guna, when one comes up, the other two gunas become passive. So, as one guna is active, the other two are passive. That's important to remember. So, for example, if sattva is rising or higher, like right now, we are in sattva, we are meditating and reading a holy book. So, obviously, our worldly activities and tamas inertia are down. And similarly, when rajas rises, then sattva and tamas are down, and so on. Thus, these gunas rise one after another, manifesting their characteristic qualities. When sattva arises, having overcome rajas and tamas, the body is filled with the light of harmony. One experiences joy, knowledge, and subtlety of intellect. But when rajas predominates, one is under the sway of greed, activity, restless undertakings, longings and cravings, etc. And when tamas has its way, one is under the influence of delusion, heedlessness, inactivity, and darkness. Thus, by your own feelings and your activities, you can very easily gauge which guna is currently predominating. One who dies when sattva is predominant goes to the spotless world. He attains immortality. One who dies when rajas is predominant goes to the human world attached to action. And one who dies during tamas goes to the world of the senseless and the dull. So we will continue this satsanga tomorrow. This is Swami Nikhilananda. Hari Om Tat Sat.